We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family, DNA ID, Zodiac Speaking, Scene of the Crime,
Beyond Bizarre True Crime,
Citizen Detective,
and Campus Killings.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together, we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to search for their missing loved ones. In some cases, even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us.
Please stay tuned at the conclusion of this episode to hear about our Patreon program and our commitment to help find people who have gone missing. We'll also share with you where you can find more information and how you can join our team and help our efforts. You'll get recommendations for other podcasts we think you'll enjoy and more.
So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing. The case we're covering today is one well known to many true crime enthusiasts. The missing persons case of Maura Murray has captured the attention of people throughout the world for its sheer head-scratching mystery, partially because her disappearance coincided with the launch of Facebook, allowing internet sleuths to discuss the case, trade theories, and compare notes. It has become one of the most talked about missing persons cases of all time. Now, 19 years after Maura's disappearance, we are revisiting this infamous case, and we hope to speak with Maura's sister Julie Murray in an upcoming episode. First, a little background on Maura's case. Maura Murray was born to Fred and Lori Murray on May 4, 1982, the fourth of 5 Murray children. She grew up in the South Shore town of Hanson, Massachusetts, living primarily with her mother after her parents' divorce when Maura was 6. At Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, she was a standout. She was academically gifted, earning membership in the National Honor Society and top scores on her SATs, and was a track and field star in distance running. Her academic record, exceptional running ability, and competitive drive earned her entry into the very exclusive U.S. Military Academy at West Point, where her 2-year older sister Julie was also a student and also ran track. But the rigor of the military school did not seem to appeal to Maura. Her chemical engineering course of study was rigorous, and of course, the physical demands of West Point were significant. In her second year, she started to make some poor decisions that, in hindsight, appeared designed to bring about her departure from the school. She lifted some makeup from the base commissary and was caught. Maura was brought before the honor committee and subjected to cadet punishment, which involved extended, physically demanding marching and other challenges. The pressure of it all started to impact Maura, who started missing classes, her grades slipping. Soon afterwards, she left West Point and enrolled at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she studied nursing and also ran for the track team. In the winter of 2004, Maura was 21 years old and a full-time student-athlete at the large institution. She had an on-campus job in the security department, which involved checking IDs at dorms and campus buildings. She also had an off-campus job at an art gallery. For 3 years, Maura had had a boyfriend, Billy Rausch, whom she had met at West Point and started dating in the fall of 2001. Bill had graduated from West Point and was now an Army lieutenant stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Despite the distance, the two made the long-distance work and traveled back and forth to visit regularly. On the surface, all seemed well for Maura, but there were signs that behind the facade she was struggling. In November 2003, Maura got in legal trouble for committing credit card fraud, using someone else's card without permission to charge multiple takeout orders from local eateries. When police interviewed her, Maura admitted using discarded credit card receipts to obtain others' card numbers and use them to order food. Maura didn't need to do this. She had income from her jobs and plenty of food. It seems as though this was, as her family later said, more of a cry for help. Maura was placed on probation for 3 months. On Thursday night, February 5, 2004, Maura was working her shift at the security desk in Melville dorm. Around 10:20, she had a conversation on the phone with her sister Kathleen, who, in 2017, before her death from cancer, revealed the contents of this call. She said that she was a recovering alcoholic and had shared her struggles with alcohol abuse with Maura. In that phone call, she told Maura she had been released from a rehab program that very evening, and on the way home, her fiancé stopped at a liquor store. Kathleen and Maura talked about this incident and how upsetting it was for Kathleen. 3 hours after the call ended, Maura's supervisor, Karen, found her in tears, yet strangely catatonic. She could say only, "My sister, my sister." Karen walked Maura back to her dorm around 1:20 a.m. Friday, February 6th, seemed as though it was a normal day. On Saturday, February 7th, Maura's dad, Fred, with whom she was extremely close, came to UMass to visit her. The two were going car shopping because Maura's 1996 Saturn was on its last legs and she didn't like to drive it. The two looked at cars and went to dinner at a brew pub, as they always did. Then Maura borrowed Fred's Corolla to go to a party. Maura dropped Fred at his hotel and took his car and drove herself and her friend Kate to the dorm party. The Whitman-Hanson Express did a multiple-part story about Maura's disappearance. Much of this following information comes from that source. The dorm party was a typical gathering of college kids drinking and hanging out in someone's room. Later that night, Maura mentioned to her friends that she planned to return her father's car that evening. Kate found this to be odd since Maura had been drinking, it was very late, and her understanding was that Fred didn't expect the car back until Sunday morning. Very late, possibly as late as 3 a.m., Maura told her friends she was heading home to her dorm room. But instead, she drove toward the Quality Inn in Hadley where Fred was staying. While driving on Route 9, Maura hit a guardrail hard enough to cause about $8,000 worth of damage to the Toyota. Some reports say that Hadley police received a call from UMass campus police at 3:33 a.m. Sunday morning. Hadley police responded to the scene, but Maura was not charged in this incident. The Corolla had to be towed. Maura hitched a ride with the AAA tow truck driver to her father's motel, where she stayed the remainder of the night. She called her boyfriend Bill at 4:49 a.m. from her dad's phone and told him what had happened. Fred later said that Maura was upset and very contrite about the crash, accepting full responsibility. On Sunday morning, February 8th, Fred rented a car to return to home and work. He dropped Maura at her dorm. He spoke to her late Sunday night around 11:30 and asked her to pick up accident forms from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. They agreed to talk the next day. After midnight, reports are that Maura made some searches on her computer. She searched MapQuest for directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. She also reportedly searched for information about the impact on a developing fetus of excessive alcohol consumption. Maura was reportedly in the midst of a course of study on maternity nursing, which may have been the reason she made this search. The next day, Monday, February 9th, Maura made a number of phone calls. Around 1:00 p.m., she placed a call to the owner of a rental condo at Attitash Mountain Resort in Bartlett, New Hampshire, where she and her family had vacationed every summer. The couple, Dominic and Linda Salamone, later reported that they did not rent her the condo. At 1:24 p.m., Maura sent an email to a supervisor of her nursing program, letting her know that there had been a death in her family and she was leaving for a few days. The thing is, there hadn't been a death. She also emailed her boss at a local art gallery with the same message. Julie Murray, Maura's sister, has said that she believes the emails were intended to allow her sister to leave and not have anyone ask any questions or look for her. There is evidence suggesting that Maura intended to leave campus for at least a few days. UMass classes were canceled for the rest of Monday because of a snowstorm. Maura had emailed her assignments to her professors and, quote, fastidiously packed all her belongings into boxes before she left school, even removing the art from her dorm room walls, end quote. This reported by the Boston Globe, citing UMass Police Lieutenant Robert Thrasher. It looked like she was planning to leave school, said Lieutenant John Scarinza of the New Hampshire State Police. At 2:05 p.m., Maura made a call to 1-800-GO-STOW, a booking service for Stowe, Vermont hotels and resorts. The system was down, but Maura stayed on the phone for 5 minutes listening to recorded information about motels. At some point on Monday, Maura had sent an email to her boyfriend Bill. It read, quote, I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promise to call today, though. I love you, Maura. At 2:18 p.m., Maura called Bill on his cell phone. He didn't answer, and it's unknown whether she knew he was unavailable and intended only to leave a voicemail. Her voicemail to him said essentially, I love you, I miss you, I want to talk, according to Bill's mother, Sharon, who was the account holder for the phone. Maura packed up her textbooks and threw her toiletries, makeup, running gear, and some clothes in an overnight bag. She also packed her stuffed monkey, a necklace Bill had given her, and her phone charger. It all seemed impulsive. Maura had upcoming spring break plans with Julie and other plans with friends. She brought her books, indicating that she intended to keep up with her studies wherever she was going. She stopped off at an ATM just off the UMass campus at 3:40 p.m. and nearly emptied her account, withdrawing $280 in cash. She was captured on the ATM's surveillance camera alone, wearing jeans and a dark jacket. Then she stopped at a liquor store where she was also alone, and where she purchased a box of red wine and some other items, reportedly Bailey's, Kahlua, and vodka. She spent $40. Then, sometime around 4:30 p.m., she headed toward New Hampshire. She did not tell anyone, including Bill, her family, or friends, where she was heading. At 4:37 p.m., she used her phone for the last time to check her voicemail. Later, around 5 p.m., someone tried to call Maura's cell phone. The call didn't go through, but it pinged a tower within 20 miles of Londonderry, New Hampshire. Police obtained a search warrant to try to identify the caller. At 7:27 p.m., a 911 call came into the Grafton County Sheriff's Department. This was in Haverhill, New Hampshire, in the village of Woodsville. It was a local resident, Faith Westman, who lived with her husband Tim on Route 112, also known as Wild Amanuset Road. Faith reported that she had heard a crash and could see out her window that there was a black 1996 Saturn sedan stuck in a snowy roadside ditch in a heavily wooded area of the road. The car was facing west on the eastbound side of the road. An officer from the Haverhill PD was dispatched at 7:29. Before the officer arrived, Butch Atwood, a school bus driver for First Student, drove up to the Saturn. Butch and his wife lived at 4 Wild Amanuset Road. He was on his way back from dropping students after a ski trip. Butch interacted with the Saturn's driver, who had gotten out of the vehicle. Even though she stayed about 15 to 20 feet from him and it was dark, he could see enough to describe her as a young white woman with brown hair, Maura. He described her as shook up but not injured. He said, quote, I saw no blood. She was cold and she was shivering. That's what he told the Caledonian Record. The temperature that night was in the low 30s, and there was 2.5 feet of snow on the ground. Butch asked Maura if she needed help, and she told him no, she'd already called AAA for a tow. But the thing is, she hadn't. There are no records of Maura calling for help that night, and in fact, whether her phone had service in that particular location is questionable. Maura told Butch she was going to wait for AAA in her car. He told her to leave the car's lights on so cars approaching down the roadway would not hit her. Butch then drove home and called police at 7:42 or 7:43 p.m., depending on which report you listen to. He told them that there was a young woman who had crashed her vehicle into a ditch on Route 112. The driver's side windshield was cracked, The airbags had deployed, and the driver appeared shaken up but uninjured. By the time Haverhill Police Sergeant Cecil Smith arrived at the Saturn's location at 7:46, Maura was gone. Smith's report, filed on February 15th, stated, quote, "Evidence at the scene indicated the vehicle had been eastbound and had gone off the roadway, struck some trees, spun around, and come to rest facing the wrong way in the eastbound lane," end quote. The initial police report concluded that Maura's car had impacted the tree on the driver's side of the vehicle. Police later decided that she hadn't hit a tree after all, but had lost control on an icy curve and hit a snowbank. The Saturn was locked. Opening it, Sergeant Smith found a box of Franzia red wine behind the driver's seat. The box was damaged. There were red liquid stains on the ceiling and driver's side door, and a Coke bottle in the Saturn contained a red liquid that had the strong odor of alcohol. There are some reports that a beer bottle was found as well. It appeared to the sergeant that the driver had been drinking and spilled when she crashed. According to the police, none of the other bottles of alcoholic beverages Maura had bought in Amherst were in the Saturn. The receipt for the purchase was in the car, but the Baileys, Kahlua, and vodka were missing. Maura left many of her personal possessions in the Saturn. The police found the insurance forms she had obtained relating to the accident with Fred's car. It's unknown whether she actually went to the RMV on Route 9 in Hadley on Monday, or if she was able to print the forms from the website. Also found were Maura's AAA card, her stuffed monkey, a pair of gloves, some CDs, her birth control pills, her school books, and the book Not Without Peril by Nicholas Howe, and printed directions for Burlington and Stowe, Vermont. But Maura's black backpack, keys, wallet with her cards, and cell phone were missing, and it is believed that Maura took them with her wherever she went. This from the Whitman-Hanson Express, one of the oddest features about this case, quote, Sergeant Smith also found a rag stuffed into the exterior tailpipe of Maura's Saturn. The rag came from the trunk of Maura's car, according to Fred Murray, who said he had stored the rag along with an emergency roadside kit in the Saturn. Whether Maura stuffed the rag in the tailpipe herself and what her motivation could have been remains unclear, end quote. According to Sergeant Smith's report, he spoke with both Faith Westman and Butch Atwood, as they had both called the police to report the accident. Neither of them or their spouses had seen the accident occur, and none of them had seen anyone leaving the scene. Sergeant Smith drove up and down the road some distance, looking for a young woman on foot, but saw no one. Police cleared the scene and towed Maura's car to Lavoie's Auto Care Center on Route 10 in Haverhill. Maura's family was notified that her car had been found at the scene of a one-car accident, and she was not in the vehicle. The Haverhill police termed her officially a missing person on Tuesday, February 10th, when her family and friends reported they had no idea where she was. Maura's family started arriving in Haverhill, searching high and low for her. They posted flyers everywhere, drove the dark, windy roads, went to the crash site, and visited local gas stations, bus stations, and restaurants and motels, seeking information. Meanwhile, the police searched for Maura using dogs and choppers. It was thought that Maura, chastened by her second car crash in 2 days, especially if she was drinking, could have run into the woods to avoid police. Even though she was an experienced runner, she could have gotten into trouble in the vast wooded areas in New Hampshire. But there was a lot of snow on the ground and no sign of footprints leading into the woods. We did an intense search of the crash scene area for evidence that she may have walked into the woods, but nothing like that was uncovered, Chief Williams told a New Hampshire TV station. This from the Whitman-Hanson Express, quote, the lone search dog on the scene was given a black leather glove from Maura's car to sniff. Though the dog did not get any hits in the adjacent wooded area or from nearby homes, the dog did track Maura's scent near the intersection of Bradley Hill Road, 100 yards eastbound from where her car was found. This led to the popular theory that Maura left her car, stuck out her thumb, got into a passing car, and was driven away to parts unknown, end quote. Bill Rausch and his parents flew in, and Bill was interrogated by police about the state of his relationship with Maura. This was also when police searched Maura's dorm room and discovered her packed up things, learned about her deceptive emails about a death in the family, and saw that she had downloaded directions to Burlington, Vermont on her computer. Many official searches have been conducted to find Maura. For reasons that are a little vague, her cell phone hasn't been traceable, nor has it been used. Her credit cards and ATM card have not been used either. One of the searches took place on February 19th. It was a massive effort involving members of the New Hampshire State Police and the state's Fish and Game Conservation Team. Search dogs and a helicopter joined in. All in all, the searchers covered a 2-mile radius around the crash site and found nothing. Several weeks after the accident, a possible witness named Rick Forcier, a local contractor, came forward and told police that he was driving home that night, the night of the accident, and he saw something. Forcier lived very near the crash site on Route 112. He was heading home from work after dark when he saw a young woman running east on Route 112. This was 4 or 5 miles down the road from where the Saturn was located. According to the state police, based on Forcier's work time cards, his story about driving on 112 and seeing a young woman running who could have been Maura was plausible. Because of this possible sighting, another search was conducted on May 8th in the area where Forcier said he saw the running young woman, but nothing was found. Same results when a third large-scale search took place on July 13th. This one involved more than 100 ground searchers scouring the entire area within a mile of the crash site. No trace of Maura Murray has ever been found. Her family has personally searched the area on foot, including the woods where Maura might have run, and found no indication that she was ever there. The Murrays, in particular Fred, have returned to the area time and again, searching every weekend, lobbying the authorities, the governor, the AG's office, and the FBI to do more to find her, hiring PIs, following up on tips, and running down theories. The Murray family's journey to find Maura has taken on legendary status in the missing persons world. They have never given up and have not allowed anyone else to do so either. Fred Murray ended up filing a lawsuit against the New Hampshire State Police and other agencies. A relative started a website to document the case. Julie Murray has a TikTok presence with nearly 250,000 followers who are glued to her videos about the case. Countless podcasts like Missing Maura Murray and even a book have been released about the case. In late 2004, a man named Larry Moulton contacted Fred Murray and turned over a bloody knife that had belonged to his brother Claude. Claude Moulton had a criminal record and lived in an A-frame house 3/4 of a mile from where Maura crashed her Saturn. Fred became interested in Claude as someone who could have been involved in what happened to Maura, because one of the theories in this case is that foul play befell her. The A-frame house at this time was vacant and on the market, so Fred arranged with the realtor, Stan Davis, for a search of the interior of the home by his private investigator and his team. The search took place over a 2-day period in October 2006 and involved several cadaver dogs. On the first day, a dog alerted to a spot on the second level of the home. On the second day, other dogs had a strong reaction to a closet on the first floor of the house. A sample of the carpeting from the floor of this closet was collected and sent to the New Hampshire State Police. They have never revealed the results of testing on the carpet. Around this time, additional organized canine searches were conducted of 6 public access areas around the crash site where, it was theorized, a body could have been hidden. These included gravel pits and quarries. Nothing was found. In April of 2019, a very comprehensive search of a private residence took place. This was a home near the crash site. It was searched pursuant to consent granted by the owner at that time, who was not the owner in 2004. As reported by WMUR, authorities focused their attention on the basement of the home. Investigators dug into the floor and used ground-penetrating radar and police canines, but found no sign of human remains. Associate Attorney General Jeff Strelzin commented, quote, "What happened today is that a team of over a dozen agents and detectives went into that basement. They cut the area, removed the concrete, and then searched several feet down and covered the area and beyond where that disturbed ground had been, and they located absolutely nothing other than a small piece of what looks to be potentially pottery or maybe a piece of old piping," end quote. As I said, no trace of Maura Murray has ever been found. The Attorney General's office has said her disappearance, quote, "is being treated as suspicious," end quote. Because she has never been seen since the day she disappeared, the most popular theory of her case is that Maura came across someone with malevolent intentions that night. Whether or not she knew that person or it was a crime of opportunity remains unknown. Remember that some reports say that a tracking dog lost her scent on the roadway where she possibly got into a vehicle. But other theories include that Maura perished in the woods after running away from yet another accident and she just hasn't been found. And there are those who believe that Maura had left school without telling anyone, hoping to disappear, and she has started a new life somewhere. The investigation into the disappearance of Maura Murray is currently being conducted by the New Hampshire State Police, the New Hampshire Attorney General's Cold Case Unit, and the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. In February of 2022, the FBI released a violent criminal apprehension profile for Maura Murray. The new VICAP profile will permit law enforcement agencies nationwide to share information about the case. In connection with the profile, the FBI issued an alert seeking information about Maura. Julie Murray told Oxygen that the issuance of this alert indicates to her that investigators still believe that her sister may have met with foul play. Maura's sister Kathleen and mother Lori have passed away from cancer. Nonetheless, the family's mission to find Maura continues. They have established a GoFundMe to raise money for private searches. As of this writing, it has raised over $12,000. Maura Murray is a white female, 5'7" tall, about 120 to 125 pounds, with greenish blue eyes and brown, wavy hair. Anyone with information about her case is asked to call the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit at 603-223-3648 or email at coldcaseunit@dos.nh.gov.
This is normally the part of the episode in which we bring you an interview with a guest who's connected to the case we're discussing. In this instance, we had an interview lined up with Maura's sister, Julie Murray, but due to unforeseen circumstances that occurred as the interview was about to take place, it had to be postponed. We hope to still complete that interview with Julie as soon as she's able to do it. She undoubtedly has a lot of insights into her sister's case, and most likely can help clear up things that are not completely accurate, or just plain untrue in Maura's case. Stay tuned here for updates on that interview with Julie Murray.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, please contact the appropriate authorities.
If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will help us grow and bring these cases to a larger audience. You can also help us by taking a moment to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our Patreon program. If you visit patreon.com/missingpodcast, you can sign up to help this podcast through ongoing monthly support. As a thank you, we'll give you an on-air shout-out, a thank you card and sticker, plus you'll get early or ad-free access to episodes of the show and any bonus content.
Your Patreon support also goes towards helping the missing, because every dollar that we earn through Patreon will be split with charlieproject.org, the wonderful website that's been sharing information about so many missing persons cases for years. We hope you'll consider supporting the show. Just a reminder that new episodes of Missing Persons air every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/missingpersonspod. We're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can find us and contact us through our website, missingpersonspodcast.com. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.